Clarissa was only 2 years old when she first declared that she wanted to eat families and babies. Her parents, George and Stacy, found it fascinating how creative and funny that statement was, even though it was certainly a bit creepy. A couple of years later, Clarissa asked her mother one day if there were babies ground in the hamburger meat. Stacy laughed and texted the funny joke to George right away. It didn't seem out of place, as Clarissa would make up the funniest and weirdest things. Other times she would joke about eating eyeballs, and there was a short period of time when all she would talk about is blood and bones. "If you like someone, you don't eat them," she said one time. Once again, George and Stacy were delighted, and the proud father even made a funny post about it on social media. But Clarissa didn't understand why her parents are laughing about this. She was about to turn 6. Then the problems started. Soon after her birthday, Clarissa started losing weight and wouldn't eat more than a few bites. The dedicated parents took her to the doctors. She was prescribed medication and tests were run. But the doctors didn't find anything wrong, and no medicine seemed to help. She started even more losing weight. The only thing she would eat was Mr. Toth's ice cream, but even that was only sometimes. George and Stacy were in a panic. What can they do? Days passed, and Clarissa kept losing weight. If she doesn't start eating, there might be more serious consequences. More tests were run. They found nothing out of the ordinary. She was as healthy as anyone. The doctors suggested that the issue might be psychological. They scheduled an appointment with a renowned psychologist in the city for the next day. It was about 3 a.m., and Stacy, who hadn't been able to sleep from worry, was going through some old documents on the computer to free up some space. She stumbled upon the document that contained all the funny and outrageous things her daughter had been saying since age 2. She started reading the quotes and many times laughed out loud. Then something caught her eyes. She went through the entire document. It was then when she realized how much her daughter joked about eating people and babies and families. Except, now that she thought about it, Clarissa never really seemed to be joking. She always seemed serious. Stacy didn't sleep the rest of the night. By morning she had decided she was going to try something. George sometimes had to work on the weekends. Stacy waited until he was gone. She got some uncooked hamburger meat and brought it to her daughter on a plate. Clarissa was watching cartoons. Stacy placed the plate on the table in front of her daughter. "What is this?" asked Clarissa. "Babies," Stacy said with a smile. Clarissa looked at her mother in disbelief. Slowly she reached out, picked a little piece of the meat, and put it in her mouth. She chewed for a moment. Then she spit the meat back out on the plate. "No, it's not," she stated with indifference, and went back to watching cartoons. Stacy grabbed the plate and returned to the kitchen. She was on the right track. Clarissa wants human meat, and, as her mother, she will do anything to find her some. But how? Her mind was racing. The mafia? Pay off someone? Or could she get the meat herself? There are always some homeless people around Peach Park. Oh, but she was not the type of person who could get away with something like that. She wouldn't know where to start. Then she remembered. Her sister works at the hospital as a head nurse. She called her over right away. Miranda couldn't believe her ears when she heard what her sister wanted. She was convinced that Stacy had lost her mind. It took 2 hours of yelling, begging, cursing, threatening, blackmail, and hysteria to finally convince her. "I'll help you just this one time, for her sake, not you," Miranda finally said. "And, by the way, you were clinically insane." Stacy didn't know how Miranda did it, and couldn't even care less. But within 3 hours, she had a severed hand in a Ziploc bag on her kitchen counter. "Honey," she called out, "I have a cut-off hand here. You want to eat it?" She took the hand out of the bag and put it on a plate. "You're fibbing," Clarissa yelled from the living room. "No, really. Come and see." Weak and dizzy Clarissa appeared in the kitchen doorway. Her eyes widened. "You want me to cook it?" "No," Clarissa said. She grabbed the hand and started ripping the flesh off of it with her teeth. Stacy stepped back and leaned against the kitchen counter. Her face lit up with joy. As George entered the kitchen, he saw that his 6-year-old daughter was eating an uncooked, severed human hand. He threw up immediately, then fainted. But when he came to his senses, he smiled. And after that, being a very dedicated parent, George left his good-paying office job and became an assistant at the morgue. He had to pull some strings, but he made it happen. No one in the family, except for Aunt Miranda, or their friends, understood the reason for the change. But at least their daughter wasn't sick anymore. Clarissa gained all her weight back within a week. She seemed healthier than ever.